You're listening to an exclusive podcast of Fight Back on Zoomer Radio. Heard weekdays from noon to 1. Oh, no! Fight Back with Libby Znaimer on Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. The case of a woman named Adele Schroeder is highlighting a thorny issue around the legalization of cannabis, which takes place in less than a month. What happens when the right to smoke collides with the right not to be exposed to the stuff? Ms. Schroeder has a life-threatening allergy to cannabis. She lives in a condo where the unit owners voted against banning smoking on the premises. No condo is airtight, and she told the CBC that means she is in danger.
You know, my lips started to feel all tingly and my tongue started to swell, that I could go into anaphylaxis and it could be a life-threatening situation.
Well, we actually tackled this topic months ago, and it's something that is coming up again and again in condos and townhouses where decisions have to be made about where smoking will be allowed. I'm going to give the numbers. We want to hear what you have to say about this. 416-360-0740, toll free 1-866-740-4740. Right now, we are going to Toronto condo lawyer Denise Lash and Dean McCabe, who is the president of Meritus Group, which is a condo management company. Welcome to you both. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here.
Okay. Denise, let's start with you. This is one case. Are both these people, can they be accommodated? What's going to happen? I mean, I'm sure it's not the only case like this.
Well, it's a novel case because in this instance you have a life-death situation. In other instances where we've had smoke penetration, you deal with it as if it's a nuisance. In this particular case, Adele, if she smells the smoke, she could die. So we cannot wait for the smoke to penetrate, so steps have to be taken now. And it's an interesting issue because many corporations, and I know, Dean, you're probably dealing with this as well, they're all going through the consideration as to whether they should have their units smoke-free, whether it's cannabis or it's tobacco. And the decision is whether to prevent owners smoking within their units. And so many condominium boards are circulating these rules to the owners and going non-smoking. And in Adele's case, they tried to do that. The owners objected to those rules, so the rules did not pass. And now owners can continue to smoke tobacco and cannabis once it's legal in their units. And that is a real concern, obviously, for Adele.
Dean, what do you make of this issue? Have you been just dealing with it as the other smoking issue, or are you worried about this coming up again and again?
Well, it has been coming up again and again. It really has been a hot topic of conversation with condo boards around the city. It has been in the news, and it's been discussed at probably I would say 80% of the board meetings that I've been at in the last 3 months. I have condominiums. We manage condominiums that have made the decision to go to ban cannabis, both in the units and on the balconies and in all common areas of the property. We also have condominiums that have taken this opportunity to move to be entirely tobacco-free, cannabis and tobacco. Now, there are issues there with respect to grandfathering in existing residents, but Denise raised a very interesting point when she said that when it becomes legal, and even in the current climate today, we have people that have been smoking cannabis in their property, and we're left to try and deal with that. The fact that it is not yet legalized has not stopped a lot of people from partaking. What it has done is really sort of impacted whether or not the police are available as a resource to us to respond to those, because in a lot of cases with the pending legalization, they have not been anxious to step in.
Well, and it's also, Denise, there are a lot of people who have licenses to smoke medical cannabis, and I don't see how legally you tell them you can't take your medicine in your own home.
Yeah, and I want to raise that here because in this particular case, there is a resident who has a prescription for medical use marijuana, and they are smoking. And so now the board is looking at someone who is smoking marijuana that needs it medically, and then I know our client Adele, who could die if she smells it. So you're sort of weighing the interests of all of the residents as well and their freedom to smoke. But this is where the Human Rights Code comes in, and you have to accommodate those people with a disability, and that includes Adele, and that includes the medical user. So how do you do that? And that's the challenge that we're facing right now, and we are dealing with that. But steps have to be taken immediately because we don't want to see anything happen to Adele. The person who's smoking it for medical reasons, it's not a life-death situation, but obviously you have to accommodate them, and there may be ways. There may be ways they can do edibles and not smoke. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. In terms of legalization, edibles are not being legalized, and there are some medical marijuana that are oil and stuff. But, I mean, is the solution something like smoking floors and non-smoking floors like you might have in a hotel?
Well, you can't really do that when the residents are already there and they own their units. And in Adele's case, people have said, well, why doesn't she just move out? She has had some difficulties, and she's on disability right now. So she cannot sell her unit and move out because she can't get another mortgage in another building to buy another unit. So she's stuck there. And I'm sure the person who is there for medical reasons has to smoke marijuana. It may be difficult. So, you can't just really position people on different floors. So what can be done is the question, and there may be a way to allow this person to smoke, or it may be that this medical user will have to find another alternative.
Dean, how are you looking at possibly balancing these things, or is it something that you can't?
Well, I think we do have to try and find a balance. I think one of the challenges in condominium management is the need to try and balance the rights of large groups of unit owners and all unit owners, and it is difficult to please all of the people all of the time. So I do think we have to find a balance. And one of the things I'm discussing with the board, I guess about a month ago, and we talked, and I said, if the board makes the decision to ban cannabis, to ban the smoking and growing of cannabis, still allows cigarettes and tobacco, but bans the smoking of cannabis, I think what the board and the owners are then saying is they want to maintain the status quo. They want to maintain exactly the climate that we have right now, where and give the corporation time to react and to do investigations. One of the things, and as Denise was talking about Adele's situation, we don't know about the ability of the HVAC system and the corridor air makeup system to combat what is a much stronger smell than cooking smells or tobacco smells, a much more pungent smell. And we don't know about how those systems are going to be able to react. Will they be able to keep up with it? And I think really a lot of condos are taking the opportunity to say, you know what, we need a little more time. As a lot of segments of society are right now in this issue, is saying we need a little more time. We need to kind of slow down and look at all of the aspects of this. In some case, it's because we want to maintain a comfortable living environment, but in Adele's case, it's obviously much more serious.
Yeah, and I just want to mention something here about, Dean, your comment about corporations passing rules to prevent cannabis. Our position is that if you're going to pass a rule to prevent smoking, it has to be both tobacco and cannabis. So after it's legalized, we don't see how you can distinguish between a tobacco smoker and a cannabis smoker. And that's the position that we've taken.
Yeah, I understand that, and I know there's a variety of different views out there. This was a topic of conversation at a recent condominium management lunch that ACMO puts on a monthly basis, and this was a topic of discussion there. And this is exactly, I think, the issue. We need time to find out, how do the courts feel about this issue? Because certainly the lawyers' opinions are important, and right up until the point that the judge rules on how they're going to be enforced and whether or not they are enforceable. So I think that just speaks to the point of the fact that timing is important. But I have heard that view before, Denise, and I think some boards are viewing it the same way as well.
Hang on, please, both Denise and Dean. We have to take another break. We'll be right back afterwards. Again, if you have comments or questions on this issue that is affecting everybody, basically who lives in a condo, 416-360-0740, toll-free 1-866-740-4740, and we will be right back.
You're listening to an exclusive podcast of Fight Back on Zoomer Radio. Heard weekdays from noon to 1. Fight Back with Libby Znaimer on Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. I'm here with Denise Lash, condo lawyer in Toronto. She is representing Adele Schroeder, the woman who has a life-threatening allergy to cannabis and has to figure out how to deal with that in a condo where smoking cannabis is allowed. Also, Dean McCabe, the president of Meritus Group, which is a condo management company. And I have heard reports that up to 10% of the population may have a cannabis allergy. What is that going to do in condos, Dean?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I heard the question right there. They may have a cannabis
allergy.
Oh, allergy. Well, I think each of those cases needs to be looked at. Obviously the severity is going to be different, and in much the same way, there are people who are asthmatic living in condominiums who are affected by smoke and secondhand smoke, and in a lot of cases, this comes down to the community coming together. We see many instances in condominiums where when you go to the neighbor, you let them know that their next door neighbor has a sensitivity or an awareness, or something that really impacts their health, that they're aware of it and they're willing to accommodate. That does happen, and I think it happens. There are probably far more cases that are resolved without making the front page of the paper than those that are not. And so I'm optimistic that communities still can come together. And we need the tools for enforcement of rules when we don't have those types of people in the community. But I think in large part, people are willing to accommodate their neighbors, and they don't want people to be negatively impacted by their choices.
Okay, that's a good point. Let's take a call from Teresa in Scarborough. Hi, Teresa.
Good morning, Libby. Just a moment, please. Now, what about the tenants in apartment buildings where there is no ventilation and the smoke from their balconies blows into the apartments in the summertime? In the wintertime, it comes down through the vents in the bathroom.
Do you smell cannabis?
Oh, yes.
And does it bother you?
Of course it does. I call out and ask them to please don't cough. And the odor, of course.
Okay, thanks for your call. Well, you've heard from Teresa, and you've alluded to the fact that even if you have sophisticated systems of ventilation, it's not clear how they're going to work, right?
Yeah, so I'll just comment on this. So this is where a lot of condominium corporations, well, depending on what this particular condominium has in terms of their rules, they have nuisance rules. So if somebody is causing a nuisance to another individual, then the board has a duty to at least investigate it to see what it is. And if somebody's smoking cannabis in an area that, well, first of all, if they don't have it for medical reasons right now, then the board has an obligation to take steps to go after that unit owner who has rented their unit to the tenant that's causing it. That unit owner is responsible. So you've got to, at least the board has to investigate the complaints to determine what the issue is.
Okay. We are basically out of time. Callers, if we didn't have time to take your call, remember, Free for All Friday is coming up tomorrow. This is an issue that is going to come up more and more. I certainly hope that Del Schroeder finds a resolution and that her health is okay. And we'll have to see how it plays out. And it looks like some condo boards will just decide that smoking is smoking no matter what you're smoking. Correct, Denise and Dean?
Yeah, it's a real challenge now. But if boards have not been looking at this issue now, they need to immediately.
Okay.
I agree, and I think that the next little while, the time is really going to tell. We're going to be able to find out a lot more about how these buildings react to these situations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Libby, and thanks, Denise.
Okay.
Hey, thank you.
Well, you said it all. Thanks to our panelists. And again, people, if we couldn't get to your call today, Free for All Friday coming up tomorrow, and we can talk to you then.
You're listening to an exclusive podcast of Fight Back on Zoomer Radio. Heard weekdays from noon to 1.